All right, everybody, welcome back to the AFC Northcast. We're here this week to talk about NFL Week 10. We're going to review it. We're going to talk about the games. It's going to be good stuff. I'm Justin, here joined as always by Chad and and Joey. Yeah, I get that. For those of you that maybe listen to the podcast and don't see the visual, go watch the visual. But anyways, we're going to talk about NFL Week 10. Pretty exciting week for all of our teams, actually. Unfortunately, not so much for the Bengals, which, like Chad kind of brought up last week, I think Joey, we're pretty sure we don't have any Bengals fans anyways, so, it is what it is. Chad, what are you pouring into your glass right now?
I am pouring in Oscar Blues 1050 bourbon barrel aged with chocolate hazelnut praline.
Hot damn.
I'm just fired up. My brother sent me this last Christmas, and I've just been hanging on to it for a perfect stout season celebration. I can't think of a better celebration than beating the team that represented the NFC in the Super Bowl last year. We'll talk about it.
Dang.
Just like the Buccaneers.
Oh.
And I bet they've celebrated too.
Yeah, well, I bet they celebrated more than you celebrated did. All right. Anyways, let's talk about some NFL news before we get rolling into the games. Joey, you got some interesting stuff to talk about?
Yeah, man. First in Ravens camp, linebacker LJ Fort, one of our midseason linebacker pickups, was given a 2-year extension. So that fills the time that Kenny Young would have remained on the team under contract. And LJ Fort has been producing and got rewarded this week. Pretty cool to see. Ozzie Newsome always pretty much did right by the players. And Eric DaCosta seems to be picking up right where he left off.
Yeah, so I guess along with that, Browns also released a linebacker, but nobody really that important. But I always think it's interesting that when people just straight up release players after the trade deadline, that always kind of is interesting to me. It always seems kind of strange. Like, why bother? Like, you're not going to get anything for them. Like, who are you making a roster spot for that's that important? Like, it just always kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, releases are an interesting thing. I heard on the Tomahawk show on Monday, Andrew Hawkins. Actually, it might have been on the Levitard show, because Joe Thomas and Andrew Hawkins were guests on the Levitard show earlier this
I'll have
week.
to check it out.
And Hawk got to talking about player retirements. I don't remember who it was in reference to. Maybe Brady, where like typically a player doesn't actually retire until they've been thinking about it for a couple years, like seriously considering it for a couple years. And Hawk had a little stint with the Patriots, and the way that all shook out was in the offseason, he thought he was going to retire. And he had just been on the 1-15 Browns team, and mini camps had just started for the Browns, and he actually came to Sashi Brown and was like, look, I've been thinking about retiring, but I would like basically to like spend a season and see if I can't win a ring. And Sashi Brown was like, word. And
word, we got picks.
They released Andrew Hawkins. So you never really know what's going on when these guys are getting released. And so I just thought that was interesting, since we were talking about just dudes getting released randomly.
Yeah.
Some of it can have to do with the compensatory pick system, which I don't think any of us are going to try to explain because no one really gets it. But I know the Steelers dropped Moncrief after the trade deadline because of the projected compensatory pick effects that it would have for them. So that could be a factor for some teams, especially when they're dropping players that you recognize, is the compensatory pick formula. They're trying to figure it out.
It's crazy. There's like counters to it. So when the Ravens released Justin Bethel, it was to receive a comp pick for losing Brent Urban. And then Brent Urban got cut, and the Ravens lost that pick anyways. It's weird.
Yeah, LJ Ford is actually the reason that the Steelers needed to drop Dante Moncrief, because Philadelphia dropped him. hypothetically. It all has to do with when you lose a free agent, how much money they sign for with their next team, basically.
Right.
But they have to, I guess, last a certain amount of time for it to count. Maybe a year. I don't actually know. But I'm glad to see LJ Fort doing well. Honestly, this is a type of time that I would be bitter because he was a Steeler for a few seasons, and he didn't really get a fair shake there. He did his due diligence as a special teamer, and then Jamie thought that this was going to be his time to get into the lineup. And they ended up bringing back guys that were like retired or out of the game, like Sean Spencer, instead of letting him play. And a lot of fans were disappointed, and I think rightfully so, because he's showing that he's got a little game to him. I don't know that he's going to start next year, but he's going to be an effective player on a defense that's above average for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Well, any other news, Joey?
Yeah, Preston Brown, starting veteran linebacker for the Cincinnati Bengals, got released yesterday. And this is just part of the youth movement that they have over there, and that means Jermaine Pratt, who we've been talking about since the preseason, the rookie linebacker from NC State, is going to be getting evaluated hardcore. Lots of snaps for the rest of the year for Jermaine Pratt.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll get into it later, but I thought he actually has been improving. I thought he represented himself reasonably against the Ravens this week. But really, it just kind of goes to show that the Bengals are really a work in progress. And in other news, just generally the way that the Bengals build their team, you just always see the cracks in their logic and where they're taking missteps. And example A for this offseason could be that they had Shaq Barrett, who leads the NFL in sacks right now for Tampa Bay. They had him. He went to Cincinnati. They basically offered him a 2-year, $14 million contract. This is all via Dan Pompei, who wrote an article through The Athletic. And they just did their routine physical health checkup stuff because they do that with every player, and he had some shoulder stuff. And the rumor is that they got his MRI back and didn't love it. Well, Cincinnati, Shaq and his shoulder have 10.5 sacks, and you have 9 or whatever. Like, he literally going into this week had more sacks than Cincinnati's whole team. So they just need to be better at, it just feels like every time Cincinnati does something, it's this type of story. So Shaq Barrett's making $4 million on a 1-year contract, crushing it for Tampa Bay, and Cincinnati could really use some good defensive players.
Yeah, it's like Cincinnati's talent evaluation is just really poor, I guess. But then also you look at it, on a 1-year, $4 million deal for the Buccaneers. It looks like everybody else's talent evaluation is pretty poor too, right? Yeah. Because I think anybody would pay something a little bit over $4 million for the amount of sacks that he's been able to put up this season. So.
Especially at a premium position like that. Yeah. That's pretty huge value if you're looking at like what those top tier pass rushers are getting.
Right. With Tampa Bay, I don't know, probably not. That would be my guess, but I guess we'll see. Time will tell on that. But that's pretty much everything interesting kind of going on so far. Anything else?
I don't have any other news aside from these awesome games that we all get to be thrilled about.
That's true.
A bunch of wins this week.
It's very true. It's unfortunate that it's such an exciting week, at least for the Browns as well. But I'm kind of sick this week, so I'm trying to muster the energy. But, let's roll right into it. Let's talk about the Browns. So the Browns played the Bills this week. And what I don't know, it was kind of an enigma. Like, the Browns were favored over the Bills. Like, I know I kind of talked about it last week about how the Bills, haven't really played anybody special yet. Haven't won to anybody with a winning record. But I still expected the Bills to be favored with how well they've been doing overall, I guess in a generic sense. But the Browns, they were favored. But if you didn't know, they won the game, and that's all that matters. So there's a lot of important stuff to kind of go through with the game, but the thing I want to start off with is the biggest addition, which was Kareem Hunt, right? So Kareem Hunt coming into the game, I think, made such a drastic change change to the pace of the game. And I think if Kareem Hunt was not in this game, I don't think that we'd be singing the same tune today. Big reason is because when he comes in, now you have this big question mark, right? How are the Browns going to use him? What are they going to do? There's not really any film of him with the Browns, right? So they don't really know what to game for, what to guess at, right? What I did want to say is that I talked about the wishbone last week, and guess what? I think it was the second drive, right? Or the second play, I don't remember. But they ran a wishbone with both of Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb on the field, and they actually did a couple more times that game as well. And it worked pretty well. The run game was extremely strong. Like we said, that the Buffalo's run defense was pretty bad. So Nick Chubb ran for over 100 yards, 116 yards on 20 attempts, which was actually, I think it was, no, it was not his lowest, but I thought it was going to say it was his lowest. Kareem Hunt overall had like a total of, 74 yards was his total yards from scrimmage this game. But what the stats don't tell about that is Kareem Hunt's ability to block. Whether it's putting up blocks for Nick Chubb or just adding an extra blocker for Baker. Kareem Hunt was so invaluable in that sense. But yeah, the run game was awesome. The run game was fantastic, and I'm excited to see how the Browns continue to use it moving forward the rest of the season.
Yeah, with the exception, we talked about, like, well, what's Kareem Hunt's role going to be, this and that, with the exception of the return game, which maybe Hilliard's days are numbered with some of the shenanigans he's pulling back there, returning punts and stuff like that. He didn't have many carries, but he had 7 receptions in the game. He basically replaced Hilliard. He became the receiving back. Mm-hmm. And like you mentioned, they ran a lot of 20 and 21 personnel, which we've talked a bit this year, and a lot of the analysis people have talked about the Bengals being in love with 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers, when it's not been their most efficient style of play this year. Well, this week they did a lot of Chubb and Hunt on the field together. Hunt was blocking downfield for guys. Hunt was great. And between the defending end zone and the 5-yard line, I think the Browns were superlative in this game.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Trust me, we will.
Yeah, I was impressed too. Just to kind of throw my 2 cents, I think that over the course of the year, most people that follow the Browns have gotten more and more anxious or suspicious of Freddie Kitchens, depending on how much you care about the team and his ability and their ability to design an offense and to manage the game. I think this might be one of our first real examples of them doing a really nice job. They integrated a really talented player into a game plan, and the results were better because of the addition. I think I am probably officially on record as not thinking that was going to happen from the last podcast. I did not think that they would successfully create an offensive identity with more complexity, but they did a really nice job this week. So congratulations. It's exciting.
And that's kind of interesting too, because they did a lot of that 2-back stuff last year as well with Baker. So it's kind of interesting now that they have Kareem Hunt back in, or Kareem Hunt installed. So another really good running back to complement with Nick Chubb. Last year being, Carlos Hyde and then also Duke Johnson. It gives them more options, and maybe I wonder if that's kind of what he wanted to kind of go do all along. I don't know. It's what they were successful with last year, so it's kind of strange. But you did talk a little bit about, I guess, coaching points or whatever. Let's just kind of say that. We'll talk about the goal line stands later, right? But overall, yeah, right, you added complexity to it, but they were able to more efficiently execute a game plan. They only had 4 penalties the entire game. That's it. 4 total penalties, which is huge, right? They didn't have any bogus bullshit, challenges that were ridiculous. There was one timeout that everyone kind of was laughing at Freddie Kitchens about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there was 10 seconds left on the game clock. Time was winding down. 3 seconds left. And Freddie Kitchens calls a timeout when it looks like the Bills were going to just let the clock run out for the quarter to finish up. But I will say that if you watch that, they were rotating the defense. The Browns defense was rotating a whole bunch, trying to figure out what to do because it looked like it was going to be a hurry-up play. And they rotated so much that Demarius Randall ended up coming up on covering somebody. I don't remember who it was. And then they had like Joe Schobert in the back as like a safety, and they're both looking at each other like in confusion, trying to figure out like, no, let's rotate back. And then Schobert was trying to communicate with somebody else, and that whole thing kind of was falling apart. So I actually think that was a good timeout to call because the defense was completely confused, had no idea where they should have been, and was Buffalo to capitalize off that? They were in formation, right? So were they to capitalize off that? That could have been a huge play for Buffalo. So I actually agree with that. One, I guess you could say, potentially boneheaded timeout or whatever.
I have a boneheaded example where the Brownsed themselves, and it might have won them the game.
What's up?
Is after the string of 8 failed and goal plays, turnover on downs, there was a 3 failed goal to go plays, and they were lined up to go for it on 4th down and false start and ended up kicking the field goal. Right. And then they won this game by 3 points.
Yeah.
So
that is true and interesting. Yeah. Maybe it was on purpose. But
sure. Freddie Kitchens is a genius.
He is. So let's talk about the passing game real quick. So the thing that concerns me the most, honestly, about the Browns, even more than Freddie Kitchens now, because I think after listening to Chad last week, I think Chad brought up a lot of really good points about that. Chad also made me think a little bit about things like watching this game and Sean McDermott, right? Sean McDermott, his first year with the Bills was fucking hapless, right? But it takes a while to kind of get that, to change the culture, to change the way that their locker room is, to, install your game plans, figure out who, are your best guys at what positions, how to work with everybody. That stuff does take time, so I'm starting to concede on that. That's where I'm going to leave that whole thing. But the thing that concerns me the most now is actually Odell Beckham, right? So Odell Beckham ended up having, how many catches was it? 5 catches, and he was concerned and he was complaining because he's like, yeah, I'm still not getting as many targets as I would like. I don't remember the exact phraseology of what he said, but that was the gist of it.
After this game?
Yeah. He was targeted 12 times, which is the most he's been targeted any game this season.
Led the team in targets.
Second, led the team in targets on top of that. That's second off, right? Third off, the catches that he did have were pivotal and important in the game, that he should have been focusing on how important those catches were to the movement of the game. And the catches that he didn't make, he should have been thinking, fuck, I could have made the game even better. But that's not what he's doing. Like, even after this win that was really important for the culture of the team, he's still concerned about his targets when, again, like we said, he's got the most targets. I don't know, man. We'll see what happens. Jarvis Landry had a fucking crazy awesome game. 9 for 10, 97 yards, and a touchdown. He was emotional. He was in it. He was tough, and he was ready to play. I'm all about Jarvis Landry. Fucking love him. And then
I'm thrilled about Jarvis Landry. Can I jump in on Jarvis Landry? Because I love the way he plays. I think he's only elevated his game now that Odell Beckham is around, and I don't think it's a result of actually getting less attention. He's like often covered or bracketed in coverage, it looks like, when he's catching the ball and breaking tackles and getting tons of yards after the catch. One little problem. He is, and I don't think almost anyone that follows the Browns would debate this, one of, if not the locker room leader of that team.
Right.
And the penalty he took after his touchdown to open the game, he just can't do it because of his role on the team. They're a sloppy team. They're a team that gets penalized a lot. And I know it was stupid and maybe he didn't deserve it and he was just yakking at a guy or whatever. But like, he has to show the discipline that the team isn't showing. And I don't know. It ended up working out for him, but it just seemed to me like, dude, you guys missed an extra point because you took a 15-yard penalty. I don't know. I was just disappointed in that particular thing.
Yeah, I didn't really want to get into that because I think there's a lot of subjectiveness that runs into that penalty. So if you don't know, it was the taunting penalty against Jarvis on that first touchdown. And I don't know. And even the idea of the reason why Seibert missed it. Seibert's made kicks from that distance and longer all year. So, I don't know. Obviously,
he has a 48-yard extra point.
Right. And he made like a 49 and a 50 like in the same game, right? So, but anyways, what was I going to say? Yeah, so I don't really want to get too deep into that, but I would personally, I enjoyed seeing the emotion and like the fervor and the energy that he brought trying to, will the win into existence. So I was okay with it.
I don't think it's a mistake he'll make often either.
No.
Even if it wasn't his fault. Like, I think he'll check himself. Like, if you listen to his interviews after losses and stuff like that, he's very poised. And I think that he will recognize that even if he feels injustice over that particular event, that he knows that it's on him to be that much better, because he is, he's the mercury in the thermometer for that team. Like, if he's doing it right, he is elevating other people on that team. So
I'll take that.
I am looking forward to him not making that mistake again. And I've had a really good time watching him play all season. He really is playing with a lot of heart.
Yeah, he's been playing pretty well. So the last thing I want to talk about with the offense, and I don't really have a whole lot to say about the defense for pretty obvious reasons, but the last thing I want to talk about the offense is the fact that Antonio Callaway was late to show up for the game. So Freddie Kitchens decided to bench him the entire game. So I agree with that, but let's talk about the other decision they made. The decision they made was in the place of Antonio Callaway. They put Cadell, I don't remember his first name, Hodges, right? Man, and apparently he was effing up at a high rate of speed, so much so that Jarvis Landry was screaming at him also when he messed up a block. I don't know why he was in and why Rashard Higgins was not. It just still blows my mind. It still blows everyone I know in Cleveland's mind, even most of the major media's mind. I don't know, man. But Rashard Higgins did end up going into the game. He actually said that he had a dream the night before that he was going to make a touchdown catch, and he went in the game, and he did it. He made it happen. So Baker Mayfield was able to use him as like a safety valve in the end zone and finally score a touchdown. So that was nice to see that he actually got one reception for one target for one touchdown, but I just don't understand why he's not on the field more often. You saw him a little bit more in the second half, and he was he threw up a couple big blocks. Actually, Jarvis Landry throws up a lot of big blocks as well, which is another thing to put up in the win column for him. But I just don't get this whole Hodges thing and why Rashard is not on the field. I'm waiting to see like what the reason is or hear an explanation. Freddie Kitchens is pretty tight-lipped, which I guess is good for a coach, but I just don't get it. Now, as far as Callaway not playing at all, I don't know. As much say what you will about Hugh Jackson, but I actually liked Hugh Jackson's policy of instead of not playing him at all the entire game, play him every single play from the line of scrimmage so he understands. Like, you know what I'm saying? And make him do like a deep go run like as fast as he can every single route. Just run him like a fucking dog. I don't know. But either way, I think both ways probably work in the NFL, but the run like a dog seemed kind of interesting to me.
I like Hughes' way in the preseason because
Fair.
It's a punishment and
Right.
It doesn't affect the rest of the team and your chances at victory. I'm glad you explained the Antonio Callaway thing because I'm all about celebrating the Browns' victory. I didn't know that the reasoning had come out. I just heard that like Freddie Kitchens was like, that's going to be between me and Antonio, and it's
Right.
just this weird game time benching. He wasn't even on the sideline. He watched the game from a suite. It's like, why is everything about this so weird? Why can't they just play the better player? Why can't we trust them to play the better player? Why aren't we getting results? Like, I don't know. We talked about winners 101, right? Like, if you're talking about the Patriots and they bench a guy that every fan thinks is good, you just like, oh, he must not be good.
Malcolm Butler.
Because of all
in
the
Super Bowl.
miscues and all the weird stuff going on, Higgins isn't playing, and none of us believe it's because he's not good. He also is showing it when he plays on the field that maybe he is pretty good. He's doing the dirty work. Those blocks were critical on a couple big plays. And then he catches the winning touchdown. Just play the guy. What are we doing here? I want to see him screw up on TV before you bench him again. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm not going to get into the Browns defense because I'm talking too much about the Browns right now. Nothing really crazy or important to talk about other than the big pass interference call that was like 50 yards or something crazy like that. But I did want to bring up something that I've been trying to bring up, but I keep like running out of time. Is Seibert, man. Seibert has not missed a single a field goal this entire season so far, and it feels good finally that like even when you lose a game, you lose because you lost, not because like a kicker missed 3 or 4 field goal attempts in the game in a row. It was like it's nice that we're making those kicks that need to get made. That being said, Hauschka also missed 2 kicks, so you know the game could have swung either way realistically. But I'm celebrating the victory and I'm moving on with it. So. All right.
Win.
Yeah, it's a win. It's a W.
You know, they're 6-2. It was your first home win of the year.
That's true.
You got to get home wins. It's good for the fan base. It's good for everybody. Nothing to do but celebrate. Congratulations. You get 2 more days.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk about that. You know, Myles Garrett actually said he was being interviewed and they asked, you know, what makes you guys think that you can go 10-6? And he says, why can't we go 10-6, you know? So it's interesting that they have the mentality that they think that they'll be able to do it. And I mean, hey, looking at the schedule, they might be able to do it, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll talk about that more during previews, though. Let's move on. Let's talk about the next game, the game that was also at 1:00, which is going to be the Ravens and the Bengals, the stomping the Ravens put on the Bengals. You know, honestly, before you get into the game, what I want to say is it feels like the Ravens, like when they have the opportunity, are just like beating up on the weak kid on the playground, like kind of to use his as an example for everybody else. Like, yo, this is what we're gonna do to you. Like, you know, just beating on him. It's just like, so I just wanted, what was the meme? It's like, throw in the towel. Oh my God, you're gonna kill him.
Throw in the damn towel.
Throw in the damn towel, right? But yeah, go ahead, Joey.
So, in week 4. The Steelers beat the Bengals 27-3. So could you imagine the rash of shit that Chad would give me if the Ravens didn't properly thrash the Bengals? That was Mason Rudolph's first start, I think. So, yeah, from the very first play, a la the Miami game, to follow the trend of beaten up on cruddy teams, was a bomb to Marquise Brown, and the foot was on the gas the rest of the way. Lamar Jackson played 7 offensive drives, and those drives ended in 6 touchdowns and the end of the first half. It was efficient, incredibly efficient. So Lamar had a perfect passer rating, 15 of 17. For 223 yards, 3 touchdowns. Also ran for a 47-yard touchdown. He was great. And he came out at the end of the third quarter, and the Ravens were up 49-10. RG3 came in, didn't look too terrible, threw an interception, but whatever. Final score 49-13. So a couple things to note. Marcus Peters had another pick 6. Tyler Boyd had a better game than the first time that the Bengals played the Ravens, but I'm okay with it because I mean, you pretty much disregard Auden Tate in this game, unlike the first matchup. And so Marcus Peters has been great, man. Jalen Ramsey, a lot of things have come out this week about maybe Jalen Ramsey after Juju kind of dragged his nuts all over Jalen Ramsey. Everybody's coming out, well, if you look at Jalen Ramsey's advanced analytics, he's not that great. Maybe the Ravens got the best out of like all the little cornerback shuffling that the Rams did. Marcus Peters has been awesome. He's got 3 pick 6s this year, 2 for the Ravens. And he doesn't have to go be our number 1 guy. So that's great. Other than that, the Ravens defense, pretty good. Give up 13 points. Ryan Finley turned out to not be the small chance that the little energy shift and the unfamiliarity would rear its head. Because it's the Bengals, and that's what they do. Offensively, my only last note, Well, I got two more. Mark Andrews kind of re-emerged this week. A few weeks ago, he had a case of the dropsies.
I know he's been on my bench.
And then in the Pats game was not really the focal point. Nick Boyle was much more the guy in the 3 tight end committee. We saw some of Hayden Hurst, who is slowly emerging as another threat from the tight end position. But Mark Andrews got off in this game pretty nicely, made some really good catches, scored the first 2 touchdowns receiving for the Ravens, making a Mark Ingram rush touchdown sandwich. And then speaking of Mark Ingram, the Ravens are still evolving the playbook. We saw something from them this week that we had never seen before. In the middle of basically a pistol formation was 2016 Heisman Trophy winner Lamar Jackson. On his right was 2011 Heisman Trophy winner Mark Ingram. And to the left was 2009 Heisman Trophy winner RG3. And they ran some fancy read option stuff. Lamar pitched it to RG3 for an 11-yard rushing gain, first down. It's fun. Good stuff.
It's not only fun, but I made a note of it, and I made a very serious effort not to take a lot of notes on this game because I didn't actually get to watch it till after I knew the result, so I knew there wasn't going to be a ton to say. This is going to keep defensive coordinators up nights. Like, RG3 might be like a laughable number 2 pick looking back into history or whatever, but dude, this dude came in as a rookie and took a terrible franchise, maybe the worst franchise in sports, to the playoffs. Like, if you pitch him the ball and you design it right, he will throw a 95-yard touchdown. I promise. Like, I promise. Like, he can throw a deep ball probably as well as Lamar, probably better than anybody on the Steelers. Like, he can do it. Or you can just run the option every once in a while and he can just get a first down. Like, this is a great formation. It's a great time to do it, because anybody that wants to get stuck in the tape and be like, oh my God, what are they going to do? They're going to do like a flea flicker 3 times backwards to RG3 and then throw it across the field to Lamar, and then he's going to throw it back across the field, and then I don't even know. Like, it's great. This is the exact type of thing that it's perfect to keep defensive coordinators up nights.
And that's when you count on Lamar to make the right read, and Ingram goes for 30-yard scamper down the left side.
That's what actually happens. Like a draw play to Ingram, and he just runs up the middle for 1,000,000 yards. Yeah, exactly. That's why.
Also, that whole thing. So if you're running like a deep post from the left side with Hollywood, which I wouldn't expect to see anything super crazy with this, other than I almost feel, because the game was out of hand basically already. Everybody, their game was not in jeopardy. This was in like the second quarter. This was kind of like one of those get it on tape because you know that like Belichick is watching from the clouds, maybe literally. And so I think I've decided the team I'm most concerned about in the AFC is still the Patriots. Joni is hopefully listening. I think she consumes via audio. But the last 2 weeks, the Chiefs have given up 8 yards a carry to running backs, which is not ideal if you have to play a cold weather game against the Ravens in January, regardless of venue. And so,
how many yards per carry do they give to quarterbacks, or are you counting Lamar as a running back? I think there's people that we chat with that would be
I don't care what you count him as, because he's electric and he's fantastic. You can call him, at the end of the day, you can call him a running back. And if you're going to get wrapped up in all that, I just pity you, because he's so fun to watch. We haven't seen anything like it since Mike Vick, and I would argue that he transcends Mike Vick. I think he's more accurate than Mike Vick, and he's faster. He's better laterally than Mike Vick ever was. He's faster in a straight line than Kaepernick ever was. He's just so freaking fun. So that whole package, I think that's just like when prolific serial killers in dramas leave like notes for the one like lead detective, like personalized like little signs. I feel like that is like Greg Roman and John Harbaugh leaving like a little something for Bill Belichick to to take a look at and consider and prepare for. But yeah, I mean, you have 4 options possibly if you believe that RG3 can chuck that ball. You can hand off to Ingram, Lamar keeper, Lamar pitch to RG3, who can run or pass. Like,
well, this would be fun if it were just a Ravens podcast, but it's not. So let's talk about something else that Bill Belichick might have seen out of this Ravens game.
Yeah.
It's Joe Mixon making the Ravens linebackers look like they were signed off the street 3 weeks ago. He bullied them. He pushed that pile forward whenever he wanted to. He made a miss in the open field when the option was there. Joe Mixon was making it happen this game, and I know a lot of it probably has to do with the big lead, but I don't think any of Josh Bynes or LJ Fort were lining up to tackle Joe Mixon thinking, I don't have to make this tackle. We're up by 20. I think he was just better than them.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
what is your level of concern about the Ravens running defense right now?
So as the season's gone on, I've had to reluctantly make the shift from my typical defense first mentality. So this team, don't get it twisted, it looks like a Ravens team with a great defense and this and that because they're the same uniforms. It's easy to fall into that trap. The Ravens are first in the league in scoring. The Ravens are second in the league in yards per game. Like, this is very much an offense first football team now. We kind of identified on the preview show, like, Mixon has the ability to get off here. Like, the linebackers are the weakness for sure of the defense, that and the pass rush probably, which is the two-thirds of the defense. But what I would say to Bill Belichick is we saw how the last Patriots game started with the Ravens up 17-0 in the blink of an eye, and hard to commit to the run game when you're down 17 points. They jumped all over the Bengals also in this game, and I'm concerned about it. I also think Joe Mixon is a more talented runner than Sony Michel at this point. James White is just a wide receiver in a running back's number. So I'm not super concerned yet. But
you know what I love about this?
It's a weakness.
Joey, can you tell me what week the Patriots play the Ravens?
What week they played them?
Well, right. All you're doing is talking about the Patriots right now.
Well, you asked me.
You're effective. No, I'm just saying, how do you feel
well,
about
so
the
you framed the question. Joe Mixon, blah, 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 blah.
What is your
Bill
level of
Belichick
concern about the Ravens' run D? And you just went straight to the AFC Championship game.
In your meandering in your question, you brought up Bill Belichick and Mixon running. You sure did.
You're just already at the AFC Championship game. That's where you are in your mind right now.
Trey Edmonds does not scare me running the football, if that is your question. It's a concern, especially in a close game, especially in a game where a team is able to sustain a drive and keep their defense rested. That's almost paramount to stopping Lamar Jackson, is having a rested defense, because he's already faster than all your guys. And if all your guys are tired also, that's a problem. The Ravens have been pretty good at winning in time of possession, but it's definitely a weakness that can be exploited if you're in a position to exploit it.
Justin, do you have anything to say about this game? Because I'm about to take us sort of off track if you don't.
So the one thing I wanted to mention was that I heard a lot of the media this morning I guess their joke on Ryan Finley was calling him One Read Ryan. It's like, bro, like it's his first start in an NFL game. He's like a rookie, and they were like joking on him, like One Read Ryan. We sure got him. It's like, come, like, sit down, okay, relax, all right. So that's what I wanted to say. As far as if you're a Bengals fan and you're like jumping off the Ryan Finley train or whatever, like let's relax for a second. Let's see what the kid has to offer for the rest of the season. Still not sure what he's gonna bring to the table, and I'm interested to see what happens to Andy Dalton. Do you think that there's a point that at this season that Andy Dalton comes back?
No,
probably not.
Nope. I think just like the release of Preston Brown, I think it's a pretty clear indication that the Bengals are in see what we got mode, and really kind of embracing the whether you're tanking for Tua or blowing for Burrow, or you think Chase Young is the guy, the pass rusher out of Ohio State, like they're in full on prepare for the draft mode, I think.
Right. All right, Chad, where are we going?
Oh, before we go off track, before we go crazy off track, I want to give the Ravens fans some Ravens porn. Gary Thomas, I know he's probably already even seen this. The Ravens do a show every week called Ravens Wired, where like they have like people sneaking around on the sideline with cameras, like picking up what people are saying. During the fourth quarter of the game, John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson, who was just sitting on the bench by himself, had a conversation, and the Ravens Wired team caught it, and it is wondrous. So Harbaugh starts by saying, most quarterbacks worry about stats. And Lamar replies, I'm worried about my team, coach. I mean, right there. Just, Harbaugh says, well, you're a leader. That's why they love you. I love you too. And then Lamar said, you already know, baby. It's all love, coach. And then Harbaugh says, I love the way you play too. You just don't flinch. You just attack. All you do is attack.
It's like a love story.
And Lamar said, it's all I know. And then Harbaugh really pours it on. And he says, you changed the game, man. You know how many little kids in this country are going to be wearing number 8 playing quarterback for the next 20 years? I can't wait to see it. And then Lamar said, when I get older, but right now, I got to get to the Super Bowl. And Harbaugh said, that's right. We start with 1. Fully erect. No blood in any other extremity.
Yeah, that's why I almost fell asleep.
That's fine, because you know what? The Ravens have their quarterback of the future, and the Browns
also maybe have the quarterback.
Maybe.
Well, we'll see.
I don't know.
They definitely have.
But
right. Don't let him talk down to you, Justin.
I just want to move on. So what you got, Chad?
Well, first of all, let's talk about how the Bengals prepared for Lamar Jackson. Does anyone know who ran the scout team for the Bengals this week?
RG3. No,
John Ross. Or is he hurt?
One, Andrew Dalton.
Well, that's why the game went the way that it did.
So, if you're wondering what Andy Dalton has in his resume, just a starting quarterback, he can run a scout team and he can simulate anyone, even a running back. Right, Jim? Right, suck it, Jim? But more importantly, when I see a really interesting stat that pertains to a game, I'm not a huge numbers guy, but I try and throw it out there. So I'm going to give you 2 stat lines, and I want you guys to just mull it over real quick and tell me what you think. They're quarterback stat lines. Here we go. 21 for 40, 418 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. That's 1. Number 2, 31 for 39, 393 yards, 3 touchdowns, also 14 rushes for 64 yards. How do those stat lines sound?
Like
pretty
Andy
good.
Dalton?
No, Andy
Those
Dalton
stat
never ran.
lines are
Andy Dalton never
basically-
ran 14 times in a game.
That's the one thing that's throwing me off. But it was like 400 yards. I'm like, I feel like they were getting set up right now.
You are set up because this is the stat line of both the quarterbacks that every Cincinnati Bengals fan watched this week. None of them watched on Sunday. They were all watching Saturday when LSU played Alabama. And the number 1 and number 2 quarterback prospects in college football were facing each other's defenses, which are stock full of NFL prospects. And those are the lines that Tua and Joe Burrow put up. And it was awesome. Those guys are fierce. And we're going to be staring one of those 2 suckers in the eye twice a year as of next year.
Let's hope not. Let's hope the Bengals scouting team just does what they keep doing and
I don't know if there's a wrong
drafts
one.
more for a defensive line.
Some draft scouts were saying that pretty much at any given time between the offense and defense of both teams, there were probably like between 10 and 12 legit NFL first or second round prospects on the field, like insane amounts of talent. And if you subscribe to ESPN Plus or you have like the SEC network, like keep your eyes peeled for replays of this game this week, because if you are a football fan, it's worth watching. It's a really fun game. It wasn't as close as the final score really for a lot of it. LSU was kind of in control for most of it.
Sorta.
Man, what a
Half
game.
of it.
Yeah.
So Tua was also playing on a clearly still high ankle sprained ankle. Like he was not mobile at all. And he was the 21 for 40 for 400 yards. His deep ball was ridiculous. Okay. I might actually like him better than Joe Burrow because Joe's running around. He doesn't look like he's a guy that can run around in the NFL to me. Maybe I'm just not good at seeing it. And I know that those defenses are full of players that will play in the NFL, but he kind of looked lumbery to me.
Yeah.
And when he was hit, he didn't like shimmer off the tackles the way a guy like Ben Roethlisberger does. You know, he's not fast, but he's so sturdy. So I'm not as concerned about the mobility, but that's just a stat line I wanted to bring up because Bengals fans, you've got some excitement in your future. This whole offseason is going to be all about you.
Laid on thick. Well, luckily you don't have to worry about any of those first round picks. So, but let's talk about your team, Chad.
You're right. I don't have to worry about a first round pick because my first round pick again was responsible for 2 turnovers
it's
again.
True.
I mean, imagine
tell us about it. Yeah,
to bring your future first round pick onto your team right now and have them save your season. And I think at least one of us could use their season saved, Justin.
Do you really believe that your season is saved?
Well, we were 1-4 and now we're 5-4. We have a
right,
totally
but what good is it doing for you to be more than, let's say, 1-4?
Well, I can't promise anything in the future yet, but we're on a 4-game winning streak. We just beat the Rams 17-12. A defensive performance for the ages. Gave up 3 points on defense to basically an offense that was so dynamic last year that everyone associated with it got a head coaching job.
Yeah.
Talking to you, Zach Taylor. Like, this defense is awesome, and it's playing without the player that was the best player on the field while he was active in Stephon Tuitt. He was their best player. He's not even playing. Yeah, I get it. The Steelers might not make the playoffs, but the best people in stats, 538.com, whatever they do, they believe the Steelers have a better than 50% chance of making the playoffs right now. The Steelers are currently in the 6th seed. This is a team that is good. Like, they're just a good team right now. They're not the best team, but they're a good team. So why shouldn't I be excited? Why should I not be excited about Minka? He has 5 interceptions. He has 3 touchdowns. The team has 26 turnovers. They had 15 all of last year. They're awesome. They're awesome. Tell me why not to be excited, Justin. Try and bring me down. Good luck.
I'm not. I'm not. Let's hear about the game.
Well, as with every game this year, it's been a tale of really high highs and low lows. I'm going to start with the lows because obviously I'm in a very celebratory mood. The Steelers, for the third straight game, turned the ball over on their first possession.
Yeah.
In this particular case, it was a terrible snap by what I want to believe is an all-pro center in Marquise Pouncey that was directly returned by Dante Fowler for a touchdown. Then later in the half, we had James Washington have a really nice reception on a good throw from Mason Rudolph. Tons of yards after the catch. It was like a 40-yard gain, and then he fumbled and turned the ball over. All of our return men are garbage. Everything we try is a failure. We put in Deontay Johnson, who's a rookie wide receiver, and he was like fighting for a pretty good return, and he just didn't know when enough was enough. He fumbled a punt return. Then we put Ryan Switzer back there, who I am on record as just not wanting on our team. I'm sorry. Guy. And he caught a punt and started to run to the open field and was going to get probably 8 yards, which is about his max, even though you couldn't see any defender. But it was, it was going to be the max 8, I promise. And then he just turns around, and then he runs backwards, and then he gets tackled at the 4-yard line. And guess what happened the next play? The Steelers ran play action, and Aaron Donald happened, and he almost killed Mason Rudolph. He almost killed him. He'd been waiting all game to do it. And they gave up a safety. And like these types of things are brutal. And then there's the other side of it. And I'm going to start with coaching, because depending on how you feel about Mike Tomlin, his decisions could either be on the bad side or the good side. In the first quarter, at like the 11-minute mark, Mike Tomlin challenges a first down lateral that was incomplete. And you're like, what are you doing? You win like 8% of your challenges. This doesn't do anything for you. They very easily could have lost a timeout and everything in the first quarter, basically the second drive.
It's all about the pace.
But they won.
It's pace.
But they won. So it's result-oriented business, right? It led to a 2nd and 19. The Rams didn't score. Yay. Mike Tomlin, great job, buddy. Late in the game, the Steelers were up 14-12. They were on their own 35-yard line, and it was 4th and 1. I think Mike Tomlin might have been bored because he just decided to go for it. This running game was averaging like 1.6. Like, let's be real. Mike Tomlin doesn't use analytics, so let's not even throw numbers into this equation. Like, I don't know what he was thinking. He rolled Mason Rudolph out. All the receivers were bunched in the same spot. He threw it to his worst receiving option, which is Trey Edmonds, who has notoriously bad hands, which is why he was on the practice squad and is meant to be on the practice squad this year. But he caught it, and it worked out. And so, like, all of a sudden, the team trend, this is where the turn is, right? These possibly bad decisions are all of a sudden good decisions. Mike Tomlin's trusting his team. He's motivating them. They're playing with heart. A couple things break their way. And then you got the turnovers. The defense, it's like defense is so good. The defense won the game twice in the last 2 minutes. I mean, what more can you ask? It's crazy. 17-12, just a defensive performance for the ages. I told you guys this week, I normally bring the confidence. I tell you guys why the Steelers are going to win, and they either do it or they. And this past week, I said, like, look, they're going to win, but I can't explain it. And that's because I couldn't possibly predict their best performance of the season on defense by exponential margins. That's the way it goes. They're awesome. It's super fun, especially as a Steeler fan. Like, this defense is like, I mean, what were you doing, Joey? Was it this? Was this all the blood or whatever? Is that what we're doing?
The thing I think is most interesting takeaway from this game is that, so first off, we know that the Steelers defense is really good. This obviously cemented them just a little bit more. I mean, the Rams have been questionable a little bit this year, a little bit suspect, but still obviously an outstanding performance. But this was Mason Rudolph's best game so far this year. So I think he threw for actually his second best game, sorry. His best game was against Miami. Who would have thunk it, right? But so he was 242 yards this game. 57%, I get it, right? Whatever. But I guess first just from the eye test, he looked like he was improving, right? He was making some crucial plays, and I don't know. I think it's interesting to see Mason Rudolph develop. I think that's what you should be hoping to get out of the season, more than I guess making it to the playoffs would be a pretty good moral victory, I guess. But I don't know. Like I said, what would seem the most important to me is to continue to see Mason Rudolph to improve. So.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And it should be noted that there were comfortably 5 drops in this game that probably would have been the equivalent of 60 more yards passing with no yards after catch. The Steelers wide receivers and tight ends are not doing Mason any favors right now. In terms of just the eye test and some of the things that I've talked about wanting to see him improve in, this was his best game. He threw the fastest throw that I've seen him throw this year into the middle, into, one of those windows where you got a crossing route and you got the safety coming in one way and the corner trying to close in on the other, and like you rifle it in right where the receiver can get it just in time. Like, he had multiple throws over the middle like that. Over the last month, we've talked about Mason is behind his receivers every time over the middle. He is getting there and he needs help. He's not he's not a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, so he can't afford to have these drops. He's getting there. Yeah, and I am excited to watch him get better. You're right. That is definitely one of the most exciting parts of this season, however it shapes.
Especially, again, against the Rams defense that's been still, again, a little bit suspect, but still pretty good. Between Clay Matthews, Aaron Donald, now bringing up Jalen Ramsey. So, yeah.
Yeah, the Steelers, props to their offensive line, by the way. Aaron Donald was pretty quiet, other than the safety.
The fourth quarter, when he just disrupted every single thing.
But, I mean, they held their own. Aaron Donald, I've watched a lot of him this year, and he pretty consistently just abuses everybody. And, yeah, and props to Mason Rudolph too. Justin had the little dig at the Dolphins, but tell that to the Hoy boy over there in Indianapolis, who just got handed an L by the Dolphins.
Yeah, we won't give him his full name this week, but either that or until Baker Mayfield plays them, and I embarrassed myself. It's funny because you were talking about those tight crossing routes, and I was just about to say, yeah, man, Baker's been throwing those all year to the wrong team, but either way, he actually almost threw 2 fucking picks. At least 2 this game against the Bills, which was amazing that he didn't, but whatever, man. As long as he keeps those out of here.
The Bills safety, 49, the guy with the dreads. Trey Edward. His name is very close to the safety that the Steelers have from Virginia Tech.
I don't know. There's 3 big guys. There's White, there's Poyer, and Hyde. Those are the 3 big guys on defense.
It was none of those guys.
Yeah, because I was saying none of those guys have dreads, but...
Well, Tre'Davious White is the defensive back.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's not it. He was awesome. He was everywhere in that Browns game.
I don't want to talk about the Browns anymore because I have Browns stuff to talk about too. I have more Steelers stuff.
Okay.
Moved on from
Sorry, yeah, we just got...
Interesting thing about the Steelers' offensive line, they did something totally weird and possibly outrageous and stupid, which is they moved multiple offensive linemen's positions just because of Aaron Donald this week. So their right tackle all year has been Matt Filer, but he used to be their kind of fill-in everyman. So he got moved to guard because Ramon Foster has been on concussion protocol. And then they brought in Chukwuma Okafor, who was playing behind the likes of Zach Banner and Fred Johnson, who was released and signed by the bank. And he started at right tackle. And this was all to try to counter the devastation of Aaron Donald, and it seemed to work, but I don't know, man. The Steelers, it's almost like they're anti-stats, anti-sabermetrics, anti-everything, because it's like, dude, you don't mess with your offensive line. You don't change all their positions up for 1 week. What are you doing? It's chemistry. But a couple stats for you, just a couple. The Rams were 1 of 14 on third down in this game. I mean, glorious. Cooper Kupp. We talked about Cooper Kupp because he had 200 yards of receiving. This is going around all the Steelers articles, so if you guys did your research, you already know this stuff. He had 0 catches on 4 targets. I was so dumbfounded by this that I only watched half the Ravens game so that I could go back on the coach's film and try to figure out what the Steelers did to eliminate Cooper Kupp. Because it's not like you can just eliminate him. He's a slot receiver and he's off. It turns out, in my opinion, a lot of it was the Rams. I think Sean McVay maybe outcoached himself because Cooper Kupp was used as kind of deception in a lot of cases, and they also used him a lot to assist the running game because he's a big guy. And Mike Hilton, our slot cornerback, is a pretty active run defense. So they used him to block a lot. Mike Hilton was mostly on Cooper Kupp, but they always had a safety crashing the middle. And for the first half, it was mostly Terrell Edmunds. And in the second half, a lot of times it was Minkah Fitzpatrick. But they didn't follow him. Like, nobody was following him around. Linebackers were getting in on it. Sometimes he'd line up close to the line of scrimmage and somebody would just kind of chuck. But I think, honestly, most of the reason Cooper Kupp was held to 0 catches was the Rams game. He was open deep at least 3 times that I saw on the coach's film, and they just didn't look to him. It looked like their plan was to target Robert Woods, and Joe Hayden was just up for the challenge. Robert Woods ended the game with 7 catches for 95 yards, which is a pretty good day, but he didn't get in the end zone and he had no catch. My last stat, little bit of comedy. There are brothers on the Steelers. I don't know if you knew that. We have Terrell Edmunds, starting strong safety, and Trey Edmunds, now on the team running back. Guess how many interceptions each player has in their career?
Yeah.
The answer is 1. Ooh. Terrell Edmunds has an interception that I don't remember, but I'm sure it was awesome. Trey Edmunds intercepted the fake punt. Remember that goofy ass play when they just shifted in the middle and all the Steelers lined up and everybody was ready and they waited 10 seconds and then they ran Trey Edmunds was the player that intercepted that pass. So he was a running back, but he's got an interception now. So 2 brothers, 1 interception, and congratulations to the Edmunds making plays for the Steelers.
Just the family business.
That's right.
Yep, getting picks.
You can imagine that Thanksgiving when the running back brags to his parents about how he's got as many interceptions as his brother.
If Minkah Fitzpatrick would stop hogging all the fucking interceptions.
I know.
I could talk about Minkah for days, but no need. He's obviously awesome. We're thrilled to have him. I've been saying ever since they made the trade that it would have been great to give less than a first-round pick, but he is obviously worth a first-round. They're going to sign him again. He's going to be on the team for years. It's amazing. It's just so happy to have him. He's so great.
Yeah, he's good.
All right. Well, let's start wrapping things up by talking about offensive and defensive players of the week. I see Joey's eyes shifting around. He's thinking.
Can we start with defensive?
Sure. Let's start with defensive player of the week. I'm going to take it, and I'm going to start off by saying Minkah Fitzpatrick.
That's fine. That's not who I was going to nominate.
Oh, okay. The disappointment in your face says otherwise, but go ahead.
Well, no. Finish your nomination. Make your case.
Nah, man. I don't know. Go for it. What you got?
Oh, you just wanted to rain on me.
Yeah.
Well, you failed.
I mean, no, obviously I think that he deserves, but go ahead.
Yeah, he's great. Statistically awesome, always getting the turnovers. I'm nominating Joe Hayden. The Rams' game plan was to target Joe Hayden this week. They stayed away from Cooper Kupp. They used him as a deception. They tried all this stuff. Joe Hayden finished the game with 7 tackles, 5 passes defended, 1 interception, and 1 forced fumble. And one of those passes tipped to your nominee, Minkah Fitzpatrick. Joe Hayden played maybe his best game as a Steeler. He was out there balling, man, and
yeah, it was tough.
Defense gave up 3 points. I think he's the reason for it. So he is my nominee for Defensive Player of the Week.
Yeah, Joe Hayden was a fucking bulldog out there on Sunday. He was targeted a zillion times and held his own against what's considered, despite their misfortune running the ball and weird Todd Gurley shit, still to be one of the more challenging offenses in the league. To give Minkah's statistics, he had a fumble recovery for a touchdown. He had an interception, 2 passes defense, 3 tackles. Just another day at the office for Minkah Fitzpatrick.
I mean, he's
just
awesome.
Everywhere you need him to be at all times.
Yeah, man, Joe Hayden, it sucks, but it's strange. I don't know. We can talk about it a little bit, I guess, some other podcast about the situation as far as the Browns letting him go, but it sucks. But all right,
What's up? Wait for that.
Yeah, what were you gonna say, Chad?
No, I don't care when we talk about it. I guess, Joey, do you have a separate nomination, or are we just giving the award to Joey?
Well, I think we'll just pit Joe Hayden and Minkah Fitzpatrick up against each other.
Oh, I love that. Steelers all day.
Yeah. I mean, the Ravens played Ryan Finley. Let's be fucking serious.
All right, let's talk about
Cleveland
offense.
had a good defensive game.
Let's talk about the offensive players of the week. Let's start with Joey. What you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Lamar.
Right.
He posted a perfect passer rating. He's the first quarterback since 2007 to have 2 games in a season with a perfect passer rating. He's also the first quarterback, I think, ever to, every week they come up with these ridiculous stats.
Yeah.
To have a perfect passer rating and 3 passing touchdowns and also run for a touchdown. So, but I think more than anything, he had his memorable moment. Everybody knows the Mike Vick run. I think it's against the Vikings, where he splits the defenders and makes them look like fools, and they basically tackle each other. This was, to this point, Lamar's trademark run. He had the spin move in the open field with 3 defenders around him. There's still frames of the spin move where, like, you see Lamar in the middle of 3 guys, and then, like, after the spin move, and, like, Lamar's over here, and there's just, like, 3 guys in a pile right here. So, yeah, Lamar. It's basic. So when John Cena was the United States champion in WWE, every week he had the United States Open Challenge, and he would end his little promo with, "If you want some, come get some." So I think to this point in the season, AFC North Offensive Player of the Week is basically Lamar Jackson Open Challenge. So whoever you've got, come fucking get some.
Do I have to do it for you, Justin, or I'm not going to do it like you were? I'll give you the chance to give the obvious candidate.
No, go ahead.
I'm putting Jarvis Landry in there. I think that he is the heart and soul of the Browns. I think every time they need to play, even if he's not technically the best player on the team, you want to make the Nick Chubb argument. Maybe Odell Beckham has better hands or whatever. Like Jarvis
debatable
Landry
this season.
is the pulse. He is the pulse. When they needed the touchdown, they throw to him even before the sticks, and he breaks a tackle. That was last week, but whatever. Like, he had 9 receptions, 97 yards, and a touchdown, but he was the heart of Cleveland when they needed it to get their first win at home. Every big play had number 80 somewhere stamped on it. I think he deserves to have his picture next to the actual winner this week, Lamar Jackson.
You know, I was toiling over who I was going to pick, and I was thinking, man, am I going to pick Nick Chubb, running for over 100 yards this game, over 20 attempts? Am I going to pick Jarvis Landry, who you made obviously a really good case for? But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go a little bit of the dark horse pick, if you will, right? I'm going to say Kareem Hunt, right? Because implementing him into the game obviously had that much of a shift, that much of a change in momentum. He was able to make up that many blocks that were that crucial and important. If you look even on the big run that Nick Chubb had, where he was tackled by like 7 different dudes at one point. Kareem Hunt threw up a huge block just before the 10-yard line on that. And yeah, man, still had 70 yards from scrimmage. So sure, since you've already nominated not only Jarvis Landry, but the actual AFC North Player of the Week, Offensive Player of the Week, I'm going to nominate Kareem Hunt because of what he added to the team. So there you go.
That's a nice shout out. That's nice
fair.
Shout out. That's a good use of your minutes, Justin. I think that, even though he's not even going to be on the poll,
Yeah.
I think it's nice to just give
honorable
a little
mention.
extra shine to that. Because no, honestly, I think it's one of the best things the Browns have done this year from a coaching, team, and execution perspective is to integrate Kareem Hunt into that first game. It was a highlight.
For sure. All right. Well, you guys got anything else you want to jabber on about?
We could talk about Minka for ages. You could talk about how you guys don't have Joe Hayden anymore. I mean, we need stuff like that to happen because we can't draft a defensive back to save our life. So we need these sort of scenarios.
Yeah, from everybody else. Joe, you got anything? No. I'm tired. I don't feel good.
Lamar Jackson just wants to win a Super Bowl.
Right.
Just win.
We'll see. Maybe he'll get his chance. We'll see.
Also, the Pats have a tough little stretch coming up here. So if the Ravens can continue their winning ways against some really good football teams,
maybe focus on yourself. You have serious opponents to consider.
Right.
Oh, the Los Angeles Rams that just got shit pumped by Mason Rudolph.
And the Buffalo Bills.
You've got your work cut out for you, man. MVP candidates, well-coached teams. You're playing Deshaun Watson soon. You're playing San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
You're playing
San Francisco, who just got beat by the Seahawks, who we beat in Seattle.
In overtime.
You're fortunate that you get to have that attitude because Lamar and your entire team doesn't. That must feel really good. I can't wait to watch you suffer the heart-wrenching defeat when Lamar gets tossed back into the, I'm a pocket passer. I'm going to throw way over my receiver's head, and a decent free safety is going to have 4 interceptions, and I'll just wait till next year, and I'll be that much slower and that much less good because I'm actually a running back.
We'll see.
All right, guys. Well, that was NFL Week 10. That's at least how we see it. So this week on Thursday Night Football, the very first actual prime time Thursday night important football game. None of these bullshit games. What did we have last week? What was it? The 49ers and the Cardinals? Yeah, thumbs down. Who cares, right? We have the Browns and the Steelers playing on Thursday night. So we were going to try to live stream some of that, but unfortunately, we've decided not to because, internet is just different across everybody. So we're going to have reactions that are like either 5 minutes ahead or 10 minutes, behind or whatever it is. So it's just not going to work well to let us enjoy the game while it happens. So we're going to end up doing.
It's good to be able to pay attention to the game.
Right, and also it's good to actually get our sentiment about the game out before the game actually happens rather than in the middle of the game. So, I don't know. We'll see if maybe we can work something up live stream-wise, but what we're going to do instead is tomorrow night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, tomorrow being Wednesday, we're going to do our preview episode for the podcast, and then we'll end up watching the game on Thursday night. It'll be good stuff. I'm excited to watch the Browns get another win. So, but
Too bad you got to wait for like a really long time.
Really long. That being said, if you're still listening at this point, feel free.
What are you doing?
Yeah. But while you're clearly not doing anything, look, go onto the Facebook page, tags, make some comments, participate in some polls, integrate, and talk with the community, talk with us, throw us some questions that you might have that maybe we can't answer, while we're doing the podcast, or maybe we didn't think about it. If you want to ask us questions during the podcast, hey, look, we're live streaming it. It is what it is. Check us out on Twitch. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Facebook. We're all over the place. All right. So normally Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Obviously this week we're doing it Tuesday and Wednesday because of the Thursday night football game. But either way, join the community. Favorite us, like us, 5 stars us. Tell your friends, tell your family. Get them to do the same thing. Download, delete, download again. And, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for listening this long. And look forward to seeing you again.
Oh.
What's up?
Chad, what do you think about the uniforms the Steelers wore on? I fucking love those uniforms.
Dude, do you know what they were?
The block numbers, they're like a throwback, right?
They're the throwback of the 1979 Super Bowl 14 victory over Los Angeles Rams.
Wow.
It's like, I like that. I like that. So the other numbers, not tough. Like the other numbers make love. These numbers, fuck. All right. These numbers are tough as shit.
I had that noted, but I felt like I was rambling. But, sometimes during the pregame, something happens. Also, I meant to look all this up, but the Steelers not only had the throwback uniforms, but they brought in a bunch of the old, steel curtain guys and one Aquaman, Jason Momoa. You just can't counter that. You just can't counter that sort of energy. I should have known they were going to win from the start.
The Ravens have the real Aquaman, Michael Phelps.
True that.
All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Take it easy.